Hey, how's it going?
Good, you?
Good. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. It's been quite a while, right, since we met at that like coffee shop in North
That's right.
Carolina.
On Franklin Street. You're in San Francisco now.
Yeah, I'm literally
Living the
overlooking.
dream.
I can see the Bay Bridge to the Golden Gate Bridge from my
Stop.
view right here. It's beautiful. Here for 10 more days though before I'm out and back to North Carolina. So, absolutely.
Tell me about what you're doing. I've seen your demos on social media. They're wild, like
Thank
really
you.
cool. Like we all know this is coming. Um, we already talked to agents on the phone and other places. I think seeing your demo, the cool thing was just how easily it switched between languages, right? Like for people
Thanks.
to be able to order stuff in their own languages. That's wild. So yeah, start by telling me what you're doing. How'd you get in AI? How long you been doing this? Why are you excited about it?
Yeah, super excited. I'm building voice AI for drive-throughs. I think it was literally the day or two before I let go. I was in the car and me and my dad were going through a drive-through because I think, I'm a foodaholic. I have been my entire life. And
Mhm.
we were like, man, they always get our order wrong here. And not just that, we're stuck waiting in this drive-through forever. Like,
Yeah.
it's just a common problem. And me and my dad are very picky eaters. We get everything like plain or ketchup only, and they just
Okay.
always butcher it, right? They always get it
Yeah.
wrong. And we were like, and so at that point, he's that, and I was like, man, well, if it wasn't for this other voice AI thing I was doing, I think I'd do this. Like, but I'd
Yeah.
have to do it right this second. If I didn't start this right now,
Yeah.
I would like totally be behind. And
Yeah.
then like a day or two later, I got laid off, and I was like, man, this must be God
There we
telling me to
go.
do something. Yeah. So I basically threw together a prototype almost overnight, not really knowing much what I had done. Right. I had worked at voice AI companies before, but I had never really worked on the voice AI side. I had really
Yeah.
worked on the product side, like making this
Okay.
enjoyable for people, not really doing all the technical building stuff. I had never built a voice AI stack from scratch. Um, and I had really only implemented the basic models before. So it was just a demand problem. I guess I just knew this was such a high demand, and I kind of gunned right into here. And so that's where I'm at today. Now I have this LaneFix AI demo. Yeah.
Super cool. So like I know how agents work. I know a little bit about multi-agent. I don't want you to like throw your whole architecture out here, like anything that's IP, but like how's it structured? Like I sort of know theoretically how voice AI works, but it's still very black box. And I remember what was the demo that came out like last fall? And it was just like it was a research lab and they dropped it and it was like blew up on Reddit and Twitter and everyone was like, oh my gosh, like it just was this big moment.
The one that recently got acquired by the Meta, if I remember correctly,
Maybe,
Brampton.
yeah,
I remember Brampton
yeah,
was really big for me.
okay,
So anyway, so there's two different types of voice AI, which I really figured out when I got started with this. Number one, there's real-time models, which I was very familiar with. I think most of us are familiar with OpenAI's real-time. Like I tried it
okay,
out. I had previously built a child voice AI companion app using this real-time API, which
okay.
is awesome. It's really easy to build on, but the bad thing is it's really easy to like build off of. Basically,
Uh-huh.
you can't really change much because it's all in one. It just kind of works. Like you
Yep.
plug your WebSocket right into it, it gets you back a live response, and that's it. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of control in that type of thing. There's not a lot you can do to prevent hallucinations, but it's just really fast. So what I ended up doing, which is what I learned at like my last voice AI company, was how to build a real voice AI stack. Now, this isn't a model. This is like a multi-step stack. So what this is
Okay.
you build some sort of speech to text plus VAD, right? Then you're streaming that speech to text transcript constantly over to an LLM. Then
Yep.
you're piping those streams constantly from that LLM back to text to speech. So
Oh
it's way
wow.
simpler than most people would think. You actually get very close to real-time latency. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if I wanted to, I could probably get sub
Mm-hmm.
1 or 2 second latency,
Yep.
but it allows me to pretty much inject my code everywhere throughout. I can control what is done at every single step of this LLM. I can control what it does transcribing back and forth. I can control how it thinks, what it's allowed to do. And this is how I can do things like, our V1 was built on kind of one of these real-time APIs. But now we're able to do things like control price hallucination, control menus, right? Because it would quickly go off of the menu or would misspell things. And so being able to add these steps, not just at the function level, but all throughout is really helpful. And it also helped us get things like, ability to see the real-time like order as you're ordering on the screen previously. And I know that a
Oh
lot
my
of other
gosh.
AI companies, you simply can't see that. So
Yeah. Okay. And maybe I'm asking the wrong question, so feel free to just kind of redirect where it needs to go. But you talked about controlling the back end, like the actual agent of it
Yep.
on the back end? Are you using reasoning? Or do you have like another agent like monitoring the agent? And don't say anything that you don't
I
want to
do.
like
No, no,
IP
no,
that you
no.
don't want to share.
I definitely thought of open sourcing this whole thing. So I'm happy to spill the sauce. I think the number one thing is you'd be surprisingly easy how easy it is to get conversational agents working. I've always told people conversational is the very first thing. So if you have a company idea today that all it requires is a conversation with AI, you should build that immediately because that is so easy to build and so easy to impress people with like basic level conversations. Now, where AI gets hard is, again, the function calling accurately, especially doing things like adding items to the menu or adding items to your order, adding requests to those items, modifying pre-existing items, coming up and you have somebody else ordering. So the biggest thing that we saw our issues was on function calling. So we have one function calling agent that actually just tries to be as fast as possible and tell the other agent what the customer wants. And then we have another OpenAI level parse, which actually compares that to our existing menu and tries to basically auto-correct the first LLM. And we've able to reduce like 90% of hallucinations simply by having that like little one-step parsing agent. And it basically just auto-corrects the first LLM, spell checks everything, and makes our orders perfect. So there's really not behind this. And then I would say, like, again,
You're
the other
underselling it.
the biggest trick we've done is testing, right? And I think I talked with you about that previously. You talked to me a lot about benchmarking.
Evals.
There's not much we have to actually do to make the AI good because we spend so much time on prompt engineering. Like I've said, like I probably every single day am whipping up new benchmark tests, running 100 orders, 200 orders, 500 orders, 1,000 orders. I mean,
you built like the super cool like whole system for automating just. And I was just literally just watching a video today of like somebody training like in a driving thing, but all on the screen, and it was like, oh yeah, like you need evolution, like you need to run just hundreds of thousands of systems to figure out really where the best is. Otherwise, if you try and go in and manually do it, you overfit.
Yeah, like so at my last job, and this is something I knew coming to this, we were working on real time, which basically means, and I don't mean like a real time stack. I mean that when your customers have an issue, you have to fix it in real time. And this resulted in something we had like a fires channel. When things blew up, they were on fire and it sucked, right? So coming into this job, I was constantly aware of like, okay, drive-through is something people really care about. If the drive-through goes down, these owner-operators are going to be pissed. They're going to be having me fly across the country and physically work their drive-through for them and then work nights to fix it until it's fixed, right? So I have to have this not only be incredibly reliable, it just needs to work very, very, very well. As in, like, it can't break on hour 4 or hour 8. Even if it was streamless for the past 6 hours, it can't have little bugs. So the number one way I figured out approaching that, I was like, well, I could either get a ton of customers that are willing to let me pilot, which as a single founder who does not want to hire employees, just didn't seem like the quickest way to find failure, right? And I wanted to fail really quickly. So I put together this little AI agent tool, which lets me run AI agents against each other and order from my own AI. And it has let me put thousands and thousands and thousands of orders through my own AI before my competitors can even get off the ground at some of these locations. And I have just leaped past them.
Okay, so I was gonna just say something, but I'm gonna ask a question first. What, like, you say this is easy. It's not easy for me. Like, I can build textual agents, that's fine. But like, what, either you're like really truly very far into selling it, or like everyone's gonna figure this out in a handful of months.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. AI is very easy. I keep telling people that the whole point of AI is to get stupid easy to where everybody can do this in a couple of months. Hopefully our moat will be in sales. And I say that like, I'm not raising money because I fully understand that somebody could come along and kill us with the same thing we're doing, right? I mean, I'm a one person who came out of absolutely nowhere. I have no real pedigree, and I just built together something, threw it together, and I'm now trying to land customers at some of the biggest franchises in the country in probably 90 days, right? If I could do that, anybody of my skill level and pedigree can do that. So now this is no longer becoming a game of who is most technical engineer. It is who is willing to get out there and sell, who's going to build something someone wants, and who's going to do it first. So
the difficulty is not there. You're selling yourself on the technical side.
The technical there, even if it is undersold right now, I want to make it very clear, in 24 months it won't be. In 24 months, I think the goal of OpenAI is to make sure that any person walking on this planet could build what I have today without much effort, without much experience. So my goal is to make sure I have moats that don't revolve around like building tech fast or building tech that people can't build. It just doesn't make sense.
It's like I've seen people build reliable systems that can reliably single shot a fairly straightforward agent, right? Like handful of tools, like maybe a little bit of reasoning, an agent or a couple sub agents with it. Like we can do that pretty reliably. And so you start building in the pipes for, text to speech and speech to text, and all of a sudden, these use cases, like the work to build those comes way down.
Absolutely. I think like the only thing left, like we have so many platforms available right now to build your own agent with a couple of clicks. The only thing we are missing is a bunch of open source platforms that, like I described, like the bare bones of my product are built off of, for other developers to fork and start their code base for their voice AI project overnight. And those are coming. We have like PipeCat, and that is a huge one, and it's growing, and it's built daily, I believe. But the more of those that come around, I think the YC startups we see funded for voice AI are going to triple.
Yeah, so YC, just like their most recent call for startups, said stop building wrappers and start building more infrastructure, build more pipes, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, you look at it, it's like the folks building eval platforms, like they're all the old school observability platforms, which makes a ton of sense in a deterministic system where you're only monitoring a handful of things. But assuming there's a world where you now have tens or hundreds of agents in a system, and you're looking to measure more emergent behavior, you can't get in and like at that granular level, like you just won't, right? It'd be like looking at transistor flips. Like we live at a much more abstracted level. And then two, like that's just not an effective use of time. Like you're gonna overfit. It's a bad measure. So all that to say, like I think my personal thing is I think you're onto something with the evals. You look at the eval frameworks, like there's deep evals, there's Ragas, but Ragas is built off of like a months old framework and ideology. Like we've just shifted. I think what you're doing, you got to find ways to pump out hundreds of evals, thousands of test cases, and thousands of results, and just matrix those. And now you've got 1 million results, and you can kind of go through the system automatically and figure out what's working.
1,000%. It has been probably the most important thing in the success of my company, at least in the confidence of my sales pitch. It went from like, hey, I have this new thing you can try, to I am 100% confident that my thing is better than the person in your drive-through window. And you are a complete idiot if you don't take this right now. Because I've attended those interviews. I've interviewed next to the people you're hiring.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you, my AI that costs $3, $6 an hour can answer those questions better, and it'll show up on time. It doesn't take smoke breaks. So it's been a very, very important tool for us. But you mentioned selling it at one point. You were like, hey, have you thought about pivoting to sell this, like the eval platform? And it was like a very big thought for me. I was like, you know what, that's like really smart. I think a lot of people are very impressed when they see this. The video is very easy to demo. I know AI funders are like, they're overfunded very easily, and they need to buy these things. They need to improve it. So it hits a lot of pain points, right? And then I kind of just sat on it and thought for a while. And I ended up building some other software for my stack that like I would have built in the past with Retool. And then I kind of just thought, I was like, I am very worried for the Retool startups of this world, because back in the day, I used to use Metabase and Retool to put together these complicated admin panels that would basically, our companies would be held hostage off of them. Because when nobody wants to do, I'm going to go back and edit everything in SQL. And I mean, these would scale up Series A, Series B. These would get to massive scale, these little admin platforms. And I mean, just yesterday, I whipped this whole new admin platform together that could basically do everything for my startup, including that like benchmarking. So I ultimately think that, maybe those types of, a lot of these eval tools, I wonder how many of them are going to get built by founders themselves. Are we going to have a whole new wave of proprietary tooling for each individual startup that would have never been possible before without this level of vibe coding? Because previously, it would have been extremely time consuming to build some eval platform or to build some other platform. And I am wondering how many like B2B SaaSes might be wiped off the face of the planet as their tools become codable by the CEOs of these startups in quick time. And I think like one of the biggest things is like, how fit does that startup need to be for your individual business, right? For the eval thing, I think it's very kind of niche to my exact drive-through startup. you know, if I had built that out for other people, I think it could have been replaced very easily. But I don't know. Anyways, it's making me think about there's a lot of startup opportunities out there, but it's also a fallacy because it's only getting easier to build, like you mentioned. It's only getting drastically easier to build every year, and it's getting cheaper to do so. It is now drastically cheaper and drastically better for me to go on OpenAI's Codex than it was a few years ago for me to hire juniors. Like I used to manage a small fleet of juniors. I'd take Codex every single day over them if the money was the exact same. And the money's not the same. I pay $60 a month. So
for sure. Yeah. We at my last company, we did a big migration from zero, and because they held us hostage with the pricing. Like we were so integrated, and we finally did a manual rewrite of the whole thing. I just think now, like with the custom coding tools, it's like I could probably single-handedly build that in 2 weeks.
Yes.
And I think we spent 18 months on it. And just the cost to build is so much lower. So one of the things I've been thinking about recently is just how the relative cost change, right? Like, so the cost for application logic comes way down, but the relative cost of other things goes up, even if the absolute value to them doesn't change. Just kind of wrapping it into like, a lot of these tools, and we kind of seen this already, are going open source, free, and then like all the money's on the enterprise side. Which I'd love your thoughts, because I'm not sure that's a sustainable model for venture scale, right? Like you can make $100 million business, maybe you can make $1 billion, but it's just, VCs are looking for crazy returns. And maybe that wraps into like the whole just San Francisco vibe, right? Like one of the opportunities for AI is to really just bring the cost down, but distribute it more broadly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, San Francisco is a very distributed place. I think if you come here, you'll be surprised to see so many young kids walking around. I say with so much money, but it's not like they wear it on their clothes or necks. It's just so many people who are here to build. The power is certainly distributed throughout San Francisco. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's a fast-growing time, right? I think AI is really changing this past year in a lot of ways people didn't think would come. I think if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I don't think I would have even thought of voice AI as a serious modality. I would have thought that vision would have been a much bigger challenge than voice, if I had to guess. And vision came instantly. I think I built my last startup on the idea my last startup was take a photo of your food and it counts your calories for you. I built that before GPT-4o existed. And the largest advantage of our startup was we actually had a farm of gig workers across the world who would answer these in like under a minute. I paid them all $1 a photo, which seems crazy now. If you were paying $1 per photo for GPT-4o and you were getting bad results and it took a minute every single time. And this was just a couple of years ago. And I raised money on this idea that we were going to have this gig network. And less than 6 months later, GPT-4v about wiped us off the face of the planet, along with many of our other competitors. So I love to see how much easier it's getting. But I don't know. It's a reckoning out here. I think San Francisco, you have to get down here to see it. There's a lot of churn here. And with that distribution of building, or that it's becoming continuously easier to build, you will see new people succeed, and then also new people fail. So it's a kind of a wonderful life cycle. But I think the number one thing that we can do that we couldn't do previous is, like, YC talks a lot about failing fast. If there's anything AI has allowed me to do, it's fail fast, which I am so excited to see how that leads into newer, better companies succeeding in record time like we could have never seen before.
Yeah. And I think it'll enable success more outside of San Francisco, right? Like it's going to enable success in Middle America.
And I think to that, like, AI is probably the only reason I can afford to leave San Francisco, which is kind of a funny thing to say because San Francisco is so expensive. But the number one most expensive talent as a business owner is probably going to be talent. And then number two is probably going to be really hard to get VC capital if you're not in San Francisco and you probably don't have the spec, right? If you're not a hot founder, et cetera. I've tried to raise capital. I have raised capital from North Carolina before. It's very, very challenging. And some of the hardest part could just be qualifying those VC meetings and finding out who's an active investor and who actively invests in early stage tech companies, not like PE deals. But AI has allowed me to make so much traction on my business that I am not worried about attracting investor funds. It's now just full heads down on gain momentum for business. And not only that, I no longer ever have to worry about hiring talent. I think I'm not at the point where
Yeah.
I'm not looking to hire 0 employees through the lifeline of my business, but I don't ever feel like I need to hire an employee. Versus
Yep.
every other startup I built, I've at least begged my buddies for CTO help, begged them to help me
Yep.
build the app.
Yep.
I've begged people to help sell this.
Yep.
I've probably begged for people to repost things on social media. Now I have people, I have AI software agents, right? I have AI marketers. I have AI thinking behind the back to do other things. I have O3 Pro running background jobs constantly with deep research. I have pretty much AI, every AI you can think of. And then not just that, but like I have seen all sorts of AI at other levels of the sales cycle. I know several people firsthand who have AI sales agents on LinkedIn sending out AI LinkedIn messages.
Yes.
The profiles on LinkedIn aren't real. So AI has enabled a whole new generation of completely indie builders that I don't think I ever, like I grew up thinking I would have had to raise VC money, at least in the past 5-10 years, thinking the goal was to try to get a hot round, raise VC money to have a shot on the market. And AI has given me a shot at this from home without ever leaving, my backyard of my tiny little town where I grew up. And it's just as good of a chance as being out here in San Francisco, and that's remarkable.
Yeah, that's super cool. What you listed off of a lot of things you're using AI for, and what's blowing your mind these days? Like, what's like 1 or 2 of those tools that's like you got into it? Okay.
Codex is blowing me away. I think I merged 12 PRs the other day, most of them entirely untouched by Codex. I think the biggest thing people get wrong is you don't have any tools for Codex to test its own work, right? I have benchmarks, so I'm not afraid. Like I heard a great quote, probably one of the best quotes of my life, from my old boss, Brian Gonzalez from Curry. And he was like, move very quickly through revolving doors or through like doors that you can go back through, right? But be very careful about moving through doors that don't, once you go through, they close. Right. And I think a lot of people view PRs as these doors that you can't revert or whatever, and it's quite not true. So I love
point of version control.
Right, exactly. So I love just taking Codex, taking its work, I run it through a benchmark, I merge it right in. It's so effortless now. I have gone from being some like single person builder to basically I've resumed a job as an engineering manager again, and I am just spending my days prompting, and it is so insanely productive. And again, like even as an EM of a small engineering team of great engineers, I couldn't have possibly been this productive because you spend your days doing personal one-on-ones. You spend your days focusing on politics, and I am just ripping out PRs all day long. And I think the thing I am most amazed at is if for every like minute I spend on prompting, it gets 2 times better. So I am just pouring my time into those Codex prompts. I have prompts sometimes that are a paragraph long. I wouldn't believe it remembers every little detail in it. And it checks every single box and gets it right. Without Codex, I don't know where I'd be.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How much are you reviewing every? Well, obviously you're not reviewing every single line of code.
A lot less than my previous job, I'll tell you that much. A lot less than I would expect a software engineer to. Because I've worked as a senior plus staff, engineer before. And I've been expected to review almost every single line of code from a lot of these things. It's getting much better. I think, a lot of it comes down to your code base. I've seen code bases where it entirely flops on its face, and I've seen code bases where it excels. I think having a neat, tidy, organized code base that's very thoroughly documented, concise, high-quality code helps it a lot. I mean, it's going to learn from your code base, so if you write shitty code, it's going to write shitty code. It's going to think that's what you want. It's going to think you don't want variable names. It's going to think you want things everywhere. But yeah, I spend so much time in Codex, and it's been really remarkable for us.
That's really cool. So obviously you're leveraging your software background to get a lot more out of it than vibe coders. I think it's just as a side commentary. I didn't realize there was gonna be such a big gap between these people who are like anti-AI, like in software. Like this seems like an obvious wouldn't you want a power saw instead of like hacking away at the tree? But the things, all the concerns are the same ones that they hold against like upper management execs. We want to do this the right way, but the exec says ship it. I promise you, no VP in the past 20 years has reviewed every single line of code shipped underneath them, right? Like they own the KPIs, they own the reliability, and even a well-written system is, you retire in 6 to 8 years because you've got new frameworks, you got new languages, you got new systems, you got new tooling. So you want your code to be able to last, but it often won't these days, and especially as the cost of creating it comes so far down.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, I think most developing teams are taking time off of reviewing and putting time onto testing. I think that's the most, like, productive thing you can do right now for AI is spend less time reviewing its code, spend more time testing its code in unique situations. Doesn't mean don't do that code, like, don't do that comb through. I think I saw Jason Lemkin just get absolutely wrecked by Replit the other day here on like Twitter, just got his prod database deleted.
Yep.
Let's not do that. But yeah, you should be providing a ton of tools for your like AI to test its work in a safe environment. I think that's the best way, and for you to check its results also, because sometimes it just outright won't test itself. But if you do that, it's become so productive for us. And I don't think I'd ever go back to spending like reviewing every line of code. I firmly remember those days where I reviewed every single line of code, and like I'd leave comments, and it was it was awful. I'm never going back. Yeah.
Is Codex IDE based?
No, Codex is a web-based solution, which I think I like a lot. I was telling my wife the other day, I waste so much money on so many different AIs that all do the exact same thing. She's like, what do they do differently? I'm like, I can just call them from different places. She's like, couldn't you just connect them? Like, it's like the equivalent of like if I had a friend Jeff, if I had to like, visit him one way and then do it another, it just doesn't make sense. But like I pay for Alex, right, which is the Xcode.
Yeah.
It's a AI for Xcode. Then I pay for Cursor. Then I pay for Anthropic. Then I pay for Codex. Then I like it though. I like having my AI all over the place. I like using different types of AIs. I think they all come with different types of responses. There's a lot of times where one of them doesn't quite work, the other one does. I compare them against each other all the time. And there's no one that works best in my experience. I think Codex falls through a lot on some of the smaller things, and I have to come in like Cursor and finish the job. But Codex has been the biggest part of my workflow, especially because I can kind of like play around in ChatGPT and just take my idea and paste it right into Codex. I think the next thing that would be like huge is to just have some like create a task straight from ChatGPT. I don't have to open up a Codex window. It's just like ChatGPT thinks of awesome things for my businesses. It puts it right in the Codex, and then it creates them for me, and I can just kind of review those PRs as we go. I mean, it's at the point now where anytime I even have an idea that could remotely be a feature, instead of like thinking on it and trying to do PM work, I just tell Codex to make it, and I try it out like when I get home. It takes zero effort, which I think is insane.
So you're out and about, like you have this thing hooked up through Slack or a mobile app or something?
My phone,
Yeah.
And I can just go right in. I just tell it what I want. When I get home, I'll just like, oh, that either worked or that didn't work. And I come home and I'll have like 10, 12 new features to try out. And I'll just like merge test, merge test, merge test, merge test, merge test.
Wow. So you just got a ton of leverage being able to be productive.
And I can do it from these restaurants too, right?
Yeah,
I think number one things I used to do when I worked at like another voice AI company was we used to go into the dealerships and work at their place of work. Yep. Now I don't have to have some pesky laptop out when I'm doing that. I can just kind of read off to Codex, and it will build what I'm building, and I can stay in the room focused on all of these guys while engineering the solution that they want. It is insane.
That's wild.
Yeah, I mean, Codex is like, it's almost like I bring a software engineer along with me rather than, being a software engineer myself. It is so powerful.
Truly.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out.
Of course.
Where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. LaneFix.com. We do voice AI for drive-through. Learn more, or if you want, just try it out yourself. I think one of the funnest things you can do, we have our little drive-through attendant up on our website. You can place a couple of orders, order a Big Mac, whatever. It's fun.
That's awesome. You got cool things ahead of you.
Thanks.
Keep in touch.
Good to keep in touch. We'll talk soon. See ya.
Sounds good. See ya.
Bye.